This is a 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan SE, the third generation compact crossover from the GTI producing German brand. As a result, we get more power, an updated platform, new styling, and of course, new technology inside. My name is Robin Warner, and I'm going to show you around and inside this vehicle, as well as drive it on a variety of roads to show you how it feels. There are 4 trims of Volkswagen Tiguan, and this SE is above the base S trim, but beneath the SE R-Line Black and SEL R-Line trims. And with it being front, not all-wheel drive, that puts it towards the bottom of the Tiguans you can get. But that probably also makes it one of the most popular Tiguans you can get. And this is Volkswagen's most popular model. So how does the most recent version of its most popular model drive? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price of a Volkswagen Tiguan S with front wheel drive is $31,670. Going SE raises that price to $34,470. And my test car is a base SE with no options. All right, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside and under the hood of this third generation Tiguan. Looking at the front of the Tiguan, right away you can see the Volkswagen design elements in it. It kind of looks like a tall GTI to me. It's a nice clean look, to be sure. We've got slimmer headlights than before, and they are actually quite large. And you can see the element kind of runs right through to the Volkswagen logo and then right on to the other side. Because this is an SE trim, the base and this trim get this matte black trapezoidal front grille here. And most of it is, in fact, blanked out. We have some openings towards the top, and the lower grille is largely open down low, but a lot of this is actually blanked out. And the hood itself has a lot of interesting creases in it. We have this one sharp angle that starts at the top. The quarter panel converges into the hood, and we get this kind of hump on the side and another one on the passenger side to duplicate it. But I want to show you what's under the hood. More power. And there lies our turbocharged 2-liter inline 4-cylinder engine, transversely mounted or side to side like that. In the Tiguan, this 2-liter has plenty of space, and that means it has plenty of space to make 201 horsepower, and because this is a front-wheel drive model, 207 pound-feet of torque. The center of the front axle is right around the base of the shielding here, so right around the bracket for the battery. So much of the engine is actually ahead of the front axle center line. That's not great for weight distribution, and windshield washer fluid is right here on the driver's side, really easy to get to. Looking at the Tiguan in profile gives you a better sense of how big this box is. This is a compact crossover, but it is definitely a large compact crossover. This is also painted in the standard pyrite silver metallic paint, and I think it looks lovely. This is a touch on the busy side as far as design goes, but I think generally Volkswagen executed well. And like I said, this is compact. We're pretty darn big for compact. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to see and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. The base wheel for a Tiguan S is a 17-inch wheel. You can option that up to 18s, but the SE gets 19-inch wheels, and I think it's a nice design. Also, because this is a front-wheel drive Tiguan, we have a smaller front brake. I believe it's a 12-inch rotor. I'll go ahead and put the all-wheel drive rotor size up on the screen. Also, this is a mainstream crossover SUV. The wheels and tires in back are in fact the same size as the ones in front. Looking at the rear of the Tiguan, one thing that stands out right away is we do get these full width tail lights running right across, and they do start at good 16 inches into the side of the vehicle. And then we have this gloss black to go on top of it. Because this is an SE trim, we do not have an illuminated Volkswagen emblem. Getting the illuminated logo is only on the SEL R-Line Tiguan trim. And because it's big on the outside, it is big on the inside as well. Let me show you cargo space. SE and higher trims do get this power lift gate, which is nice and convenient. And we do also get this nice big space, nice wide space, and nice flat floor once you get it over the entry right here. And then underneath the floor, we have a space saver spare. We do also have a 12-volt power port right here. Now, Volkswagen actually didn't offer the amount of cubic feet that the cargo space gets, but I imagine it's at least as much as the Tiguan, which is 25 cubic feet. And if you need more than that amount of space, it is super easy to do. Pull a couple of levers right there. Give a little bit of encouragement, and you have what I would say is at least 60 feet of cubic space, which is what the Taos offers. I do think it's ample space for my bike, but let's find out. It's actually a little bit narrower than I would have guessed, but plenty of length. Slides right in. Okay, let's check out interior space. SE and higher trims do get remote start. Courtesy of being a fairly large compact, we do have a healthy amount of space here, and we do also have this like multi-tone of grays and blacks in the interior. It's not the most exciting thing to look at, but I think functionally it works really well, and frankly I appreciate that it's not all black. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and I have the front seats set to be comfortable for me up front, and you can see that I have several inches of knee room right here. This is plenty comfortable. I also have nice and high seat bottoms, so plenty of thigh support. Put that together, I have much less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. I also have plenty of headroom as well. This is ample. Part of the reason it's ample is because there is no kind of moonroof or panoramic moonroof or anything there, and that suits me just fine. We do have a couple of USB Type-C ports right here and a nice little mini tray right there. That's something. We do also have a center armrest with cup holders. All right, let's go to the front. We do have the usual controls on the door, as well as another lift gate button right there, and a little control panel for lights to the left of the steering wheel. Because this is an SE trim, we do have a power driver's front seat, and that does include lumbar support, which is always appreciated. And the steering does adjust manually, tilt, and telescope. Oh, that's right, we remote started it. Push button start is down here. Okay, now the engine is running officially. By the way, the seat upholstery in the SE trim Tiguan is what's called leatherette. Standard equipment on the 2025 Tiguan is a 10.25-inch digital cockpit or digital instrument cluster and a 12.9-inch center display. That includes wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. It also includes a voice assistant. Tap the button right here. Volkswagen, set the climate control to 72 degrees.
All right, I'm setting the temperature to 72.0 degrees.
Now, if you go with the top of the line SEL R-Line trim, you get a 15-inch screen. More standard equipment includes the dual zone climate control system and the heated front seats. Beneath that, we get a couple of easy to use and access cup holders, a nice little tray right here. And below that, I already showed you the engine start stop button. Here is our nice little animated volume and power button for the audio system. And to the right of that, your electric park brake. Beneath that, we do have a couple of more USB Type-C ports right here. And this is a nice spring-loaded tray for your wireless smartphone with a 15-watt wireless smartphone charger right there. Behind that, we do have lower center storage right here. Isn't it lovely? Looking up, it's pretty straightforward. We have lights, and if you order it, roadside assistance. Being the second from the base trim, it's a little bit more straightforward in here, but critically, it's spacious and comfortable. And let's see if that's true while we're on the road as well. So let's get back to the road. All right, let's dig into the powertrain and talk about where we get 201 horsepower and 207 pound-feet of torque. This is the EA888 Evo 5 engine from Volkswagen. And to get 201 horsepower, which is up 17 from the outgoing Tiguan, they actually did a fair amount. This engine has a new charge cooler, a new turbocharger, a new injection system, and different camshafts. All that actually seems like a lot for an additional 17 horsepower. We used to have 184 horsepower. It does run a pretty darn high for a turbo engine, 11-to-1 compression ratio, except that it runs on the Miller cycle, which is basically the forced induction version of the Atkinson cycle, which has the full expansion ratio, but actually doesn't close the intake valves until it already starts compressing a little bit. That is a little bit more efficient, but not quite as good for specific outputs for power. But we do have up to 24.7 psi of boost, so that still brings in plenty of air to combust, even though the intake valves closed late. On the fuel side, the new injectors squirt at 500 bar, which is 7,252 psi. That's a lot. And I have to say, I've been reviewing so many hybrids and, more and more EVs even, that it's actually nice to have some good old-fashioned engine tech to talk about. Some new engine technology, some new engine stats. It is a little odd to me that Volkswagen limits the torque output for the front-wheel drive versions of this Tiguan. I don't fully understand that. But if you go with the all-wheel drive or 4Motion Tiguan, you get 221 pound-feet of torque, not 207. On the plus side, regardless of the torque output, the engine happily runs on regular gasoline. Going with 4Motion or all-wheel drive will cost an additional $1,500 on all the trims except for the SEL R-Line because it comes standard there. And regardless of drivetrain, you get an 8-speed automatic transmission to do the shifting work. And overall, I think it's a good engine. If I floor the accelerator, about average time for a kickdown, but I get good pull right away, even at the lower revs. And the engine gives a nice linear burst of power. And if I want things to speed up a little bit, I can put the transmission into S instead of D, floor the accelerator again. Kickdown feels about the same, but the shifts do feel just the tiniest touch faster. And I do get a sense, I feel like we revved, the engine gave us just another 100 RPM before we shifted. It's a nice powertrain, it's a nice engine. It proves plenty capable of motivating this thing along. It's actually quicker than I expected, to be honest. And that's despite having 14 fewer pound-feet of torque than the 4Motion version. And considering all of those stats, we do get pretty decent fuel economy. You get 25 miles to the gallon in the city, 32 miles to the gallon on the highway, 28 combined. Now, if you get the base Tiguan S with front-wheel drive, those numbers do improve. I'll go ahead and put them up on the screen for you to check out. And if you do get the 4Motion or all-wheel drive version of the Tiguan, you do take a fuel economy hit for that. I'll go ahead and put those numbers up on the screen. Still, overall, pretty solid. Of course, fuel economy is very important, but not as much fun as accelerating. Of course, I had to test that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. See what this front-wheel drive Tiguan can do using all 201 horsepower and 207 pound-feet of torque. I do have traction control off, and I do also have the transmission in S, not D, hoping for slightly faster shifts. Let's see what we get. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque, about 2,400 RPM off the brake. Up, yep, a little bit of wheel slip. Pretty quick shift, 6,000 RPM. 6,000 RPM again, good quick shifts. Yeah, healthy pull. Oh, come on, that's not bad at all. Yeah, that's actually pretty darn good. This is front wheel drive, 4-cylinder power, but a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder, pretty big by modern standards, and a pretty fast shifting 8-speed automatic. Put all that together and you still get very healthy acceleration from this 2025 Tiguan SE. All right, let's dig into the chassis. This is an updated MQB Evo platform, and Volkswagen says they managed to pull 170 pounds out of the platform. And, you know, less weight is good for everything. The Tiguan is still not a lightweight. I'll go ahead and put the curb weight up on the screen for you to see right now, but power to weight ratio is slightly better than 18:1 as a result of more power, and that curb weight for a mainstream compact crossover, that's pretty darn good. And you saw in the acceleration test, acceleration is healthy. We do also have the most common suspension setup. We have struts up front and a multi-link setup in the rear. Volkswagen definitely leaned towards the ride side of the ride and handling spectrum. If I turn the wheel, I get a fair amount of body roll, but I also get a more responsive than I expected chassis. This front end darts to the left when I turn left. When I do those sweeps, I got a lot more motion out of it than I expected. This is a fast steering rack and a responsive front end. For a mainstream crossover, that's pretty darn good. But there is still a healthy amount of body roll. And that's fine, because when you're going over bumps and lumps in the road, it soaks all that up without any trouble and generally feels comfortable. But it is firm enough that it never feels underdamped anywhere, and you do have pretty decent communication from the steering wheel. It's a little bit dead on center, otherwise feels pretty good. Moreover, the seats are comfortable and provide good support. I quite like that I have lumbar support. It is a nice and healthy amount of it, and it's adjustable. Always appreciate that. And the quietness of the cabin is better than I expected. For a mainstream crossover, that is a nice and high mark for this Tiguan. Finally, you can tow with this Tiguan, but not that much. Volkswagen says the front-wheel drive version of the Tiguan can tow 1,500 pounds. The all-wheel drive version can tow a little bit more. I think it's 1,800 pounds, but I'll put the official number up on the screen. And everything I said is true on roads like this and on the interstate. Plus, we do have a fair amount of driving aids. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. And I do have the on-ramp to myself. Oh yeah. Lots of understeer. But, you know, considering the type of vehicle, reasonable amount of body roll and good feel from the steering and all that. Anyway, we are now on the interstate, and I have set the cruise control to 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. We do have several driving aids on the Tiguan. They are called IQ Drive. I'll go ahead and put the list up on the screen for you to check out. We also have a nice assistance screen. It is 3 lanes worth of showing you what the Volkswagen sees on the interstate. And part of the driving aids includes travel assist, which includes lane keeping. And we are going through a subtle curve right now, so I'll take my hands off the wheel. And sure enough, it is tracking the center of the lane pretty darn well. Yeah, that's very, very good. Let me go ahead and show you what the Tiguan shows me. As you can see, we've got 3 lanes of traffic. Someone just pulled into our lane, and then we're being passed on the left lane. There's no one in the right lane right now, but were there, we would see it. So yeah, all in all, pretty nice system. More fundamentally, I am pleasantly surprised. I expected that we'd get a little bit more road and wind noise. Road noise is about average, I would say, but wind noise is isolated a little bit better than I expected. So cabin isolation is a little bit better than I expected. On top of that, the 8-speed automatic transmission keeps the turbocharged 2-liter at right around 2250 RPM at 78 miles an hour. So that keeps it very much in the background. And yeah, like I said, tires aren't so bad either. So generally, this is a quiet, pleasant place to be. The seats are comfortable, they offer lumbar support on top of that, and the second row is actually quite spacious. So put all of that together, that makes this a pretty darn strong road trip car candidate. Okay, what do I think of this third generation Volkswagen Tiguan? Well, to start, I think it looks really nice. It looks like a mini Volkswagen Atlas, and I think the Volkswagen Atlas looks really nice. More specifically, I'd say an Atlas Cross Sport. Secondly, this is a nice bit of technology inside. There's a good amount of USB Type-C ports. There's still some standard 12-volt power sources, and you have nice high-functioning screens in here. The 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster works well, lit nicely, and has a lot of functions. The center display, the base center display, is nice and big, real easy to read, real easy to use, and also offers a lot of information. I was also nicely surprised with the cabin isolation. It's quieter in here than I expected. And yeah, considering what we're dealing with, the class of vehicle we're talking about, it's perfectly fine to drive as well. But I think the biggest benefit of this Tiguan is the space inside. We get a nice, easy to use, healthy amount of cargo space behind the second row, an expansive space that easily swallowed my bike with the second row folded. I don't know cubic feet, but it's a fair amount. I would guess it's a bit more than the Taos, and that was a healthy 60 cubic feet. And it's also a vehicle that can comfortably carry 4 adults. Nice high seat bottoms, plenty of legroom, plenty of headroom, and nice amount of width as well for hips and shoulders and elbows, etc. If you prioritize space over luxuries, comfort for friends over the best fuel economy, the Tiguan makes a really strong case for itself. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.